All right, and we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the second ever live show for the Latin Lit Book Club. We're going to be talking about Like a Love Song by Gabriela Martins. Before we get into the book, let's just. Why are you already laughing?
That was such a very American way to say her name.
It was
Gabriela Martins. Is that better? Like, what do you want me to do?
I know it's okay.
If
Sorry,
English, I'm going to say it the American way. I'm leaving. This is my channel and I'm leaving. Anyway, let's just go around and introduce ourselves before we start picking at each other. Hi, my name is Jess. You are on my channel, Verity Books. I'm from the US, as Lo has already made fun of me for, but I am Cuban American, so that's my background. Yeah. Who wants to go next?
Okay, I'm Delphi. I'm from the Oracle of Delphi, although that's basically useless because I don't upload. Who does, anyways? I'm Argentinian, and I have about 2 months worth of crackhead energy contained inside of me today. So, hi. Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's just the sound. I'm sorry. No, it's just like I shared the video and you were talking on like 3 different screens because of it. It was so confusing. Anyway, hi. My name is Lo. I'm Brazilian, and I was the one who pushed for this book to be read as soon as possible because I have feelings about it and I want to discuss it and I love it very much. And yeah, that's it.
Yes.
All right. So before we start talking about the book, during our last live show, without planning it or anything, we started our live show by sharing a song that had made us think of the book that we had read. And so we thought it would be cute to just keep it going with each live show, pull out a song that reminds us of the book. And of course, Lo was the one who picked out the song for this one because I don't know any Portuguese songs. Delphi, I don't know if you know any Brazilian songs either. But
if you guys want, after we're done, I can explain the context.
Lo makes playlists like that's her living.
Yeah, I like doing it.
I would love it if you gave us the context for it. Now, let me see if I can figure out how to even do this.
There is you click a little button on the bottom that says share, and then you can share a screen or you can download the video and share it. It's up to you. Let me see if I can.
I'm just gonna share screen.
I think you can do that too.
Like yeah, we can do that too if you want.
Okay.
I can do it for you.
Yellow can do it.
No, I think I've got it. Can you guys see it?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Can you hear it?
Yes.
Yes.
No, I sent you a version with the English translation if you want.
Wasn't this the one? No.
Hold on. I thought the one that I had chosen was the one with the English translation.
Okay.
Where did you send it to?
The group chat.
On WhatsApp?
Yep.
Do you want me to put it on?
If you can put it in the private chat back here, that would be nice because I don't use WhatsApp on desktop ever.
Okay, wait a second.
Oh, thank you very much. I get a lot of shit for my rainbow bookshelf, but I'm glad that somebody.
Cool. They are beautiful.
I sent it in the private chat.
Thank you. It was a whole thing. I have a lot of friends who feel strongly about the way that they organize their books, and they think it's really weird that I have it in color and not by genre or by author or by something like that. They think like you can't find anything. But also, while I was organizing this, I pulled in like 4 friends to help me figure out the colors and everything. So it might also just be a trauma response where they're like, I hate this book. I hate these shelves. I hate that you made us do this with you. So there was a very passionate argument about the range from green to blue and all of the teals and turquoises in between. So, I mean, I don't blame them for being mad about it. Okay, now song time.
Yay!
Wait, Lo, are you playing it? No, that's me. Okay.
No.
Okay. Share screen. Here we go.
Okay.
Estranho seria se eu não me apaixonasse por você. O sal viria doce para os novos lábios. Colombo procurou as Índias, mas a terra visto em você. O som que eu ouço são as gírias do seu vocabulário. Estranho é gostar tanto do seu all-star azul. Estranho é pensar que o bairro das Laranjeiras satisfeito sorriu quando chego ali e entro no elevador. Aperto um 12 que é o seu andar. Não vejo a hora de te encontrar. Continuar aquela conversa que não terminamos ontem. Ficou pra hoje. Estranha, mas já me sinto como um velho amigo seu. Seu all-star azul combina com o meu preto de cano alto. Se o homem já pisou na lua, como ainda não tem seu endereço. O tom que eu canto as minhas músicas na sua voz parece exato. Estranho é gostar tanto do seu all-star azul. Estranho é pensar que o bairro das Laranjeiras satisfeito sorri quando chego ali e entro no elevador. Aperto um 12 que é o seu andar. Não vejo a hora de te encontrar. Continuar aquela conversa que não terminamos ontem. Ficou nas Laranjeiras satisfeito sorri quando chego ali e entro no elevador. Aperto um 12 que é o seu andar. Não vejo a hora de te encontrar. Continuar aquela conversa que não terminamos ontem. Ficou pra hoje.
I was just vibing. I love this song so much.
Yes.
I was just like, no, it's just like, this is a song that someone in the chat said that this guy gives Bob Ross but musical vibes. That is so accurate. I have no words to how accurate that is, and I never thought of that, and I'm angry that I haven't. This is a very famous singer here in Brazil. His name is Nando Reis, and he was friends with one of our greatest singers of all times. She was called Cassia. She was an amazing woman. Like, she was one of the first really out lesbians in the music community in Brazil, and that was back in the late 90s. And they were really close friends, and he sort of wrote this song to her after he had been going to her house like all of his life, and then he went to send her a letter and figured out that he never really knew her address, that he just knew how to get to her house. He never really knew her address. And she was very proud of this song. And unfortunately, she passed in 2001. And she actually was married with a wife and they had a kid. And it was the first time in Brazilian legal history that a lesbian relationship was recognized as an actual relationship. And the wife actually got custody of the child because that relationship was recognized. So there's a lot of Brazilian history that is intertwined with musical history and music. And I feel like this is such a good topic in Like a Love Song and such a huge part of Like a Love Song. And because when he says, how strange would it be if I hadn't fallen in love with you? I feel like that is very Nachi and William. So yeah.
This was such a happy, loving song, and now you made me want to cry.
So cute. It's like
It is very
it's
cute.
peak relationship song. If you go to like Instagram and you get those, relationship couple goals, that's always going to be some of the like descriptions of the photos of like the sub, you got it. So yeah, it's very Brazilian love sick people like type of song. Anyway,
Have you ever used it as a caption for something?
no, because I thought it was going to be lame. Like that's how overused it is. I thought it was going to be lame if I did, but I had my fair share of love songs that I did use as a caption because I was not that I was not above that.
I don't think I've ever used song lyrics as a caption before. That's my one thing where I can be like, I was embarrassing when I was younger, but I didn't do that.
But never dated anyone, so like that's due for me. Anyways, this book.
So, yes.
Okay.
All right.
So,
Low.
What, me to begin?
I was gonna ask. You gave it 5 stars, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Delphi.
Yeah, 5 stars. Also. And
5
you?
stars across the board.
Yes.
Yep.
I just want to
Okay,
say I still use song lyrics as captions because I'm stupid. So anyway.
Okay, so just.
Oh, somebody's already mentioned the Encanto soundtrack. Yeah.
Don't even get me started. Oh my god.
All right. I'm sure we'll have time to get into this Encanto soundtrack. I'm sure at some point the movie will come up because it's great.
Yes.
But who wants to give their impressions of Like a Love Song first?
Can I start just so I can offer a little bit of context in the book? So, as we're all here discussing this book that has been out for a while, Like a Love Song is about a Brazilian-born pop singer called Natalie, or Natalia, as we say here in Brazil. And she goes through something that is very Brazilian of her, which is she gets dumped very publicly and gets turned into a meme. And that is peak Brazilian, I feel. Being turned into a meme in your worst moments, that checks out. And in order to save face, she has to have this fake dating thing with this guy called William, and things sort of progress from there. The romance is chef's kiss, absolutely amazing. I love it. But as a Brazilian, I really like how much of Brazilian culture, Brazilian life, and Brazilian family dynamics were shown in this book. And I feel because we in Brazil, we don't speak Spanish, there is this divide that exists between Brazilians and Latin Americans, where some people are like, you guys are not even Latinos, which is anyway. But it's interesting to see how much that is also in common with other Latin American countries, how much of the dynamic, especially the dynamic between Nachi and her mother, as a single mother raising her kid with her dad being absent. This is a story that is very prevalent in Brazil. In Brazil, we currently have over 5 million children in the country without their their father's names on their birth certificate, and many other children who, despite having their father's names in their birth certificates, do not have their father as a present figure. And I feel like being raised by a strong mother, a strong grandmother, having this very positive female presence in your life that you're very close to, is something that is very common in Latin American countries, in Brazil. and this transcends through Latin America. And I really love how this was expertly laid out in this book. And I also like how Natalie really struggles with the fact that she left this country behind and this country moved on without her. And if this is something that she could take part in, if she could, you know, claim herself to be that, if this was still an identity that she could claim or not. And like, I feel like this is sort of symbolized by the struggle that she has in talking to her grandma. Like, I don't want to call my grandma because something might happen and then I'm going to feel like I don't belong to this place anymore. And that, if I have some criticism to say on the book, is that there isn't a lot of Brazilian music that is used throughout the book. And this, for me, felt a little missing because, as I've mentioned before, Brazil is a country that is very tightly woven with music. Music is something that is the footprint of Brazil. When you think of Brazil, you think of Girl of Ipanema. And even though this freaks the fuck out of me, and mostly because everyone who sings Girl of Ipanema sings the English version, which is, anyway. But it's like, when you think about Brazil, you usually think about music, you think about dancing, you think about all of that. And it's interesting to me, and I think this should have been explored better in the book, how much listening to Brazilian music could have been used as a connection from Natalie to Brazil and to Brazilian culture, and how much the history of Brazilian music and the use of music in Brazil as a form of political resistance and as a form of just really speaking about everyday issues, and how much this also shapes the world. Like I've mentioned before, with this huge singer, Cassia, just sort of single-handedly changing the ways in which you see LGBTQ plus families and how you interact with those families and how you perceive those families and how those things start to get accepted and how those things start to get normalized. And like Brazil, at any given point, I can think, like, off the top of my head, 5 big trans artists that make a lot of noise, are very important in Brazil. And so music is a huge way for people to sort of create those spaces of resistance within Brazilian culture. And I felt like this was something a little amiss in the book. But in the end, Nachi and William are amazing, and I love them, and that's it. And everything was forgiven because they are very amazing together, and I love them. So those are my main comments about it.
Okay, so I of course don't have that all of that background and information on the book because we're not Brazilian, but I am Latin American, and sometimes we do share one brain cell. So there were many details that I really loved about the book. Well, first of all, the book is a romance, and like, apart from being Brazilian, being Latin American, etc., the book is a romance, and the romance is beautiful. And I think it's the first actual, like, pure romance book that I read, and it's definitely a first fake dating book I think that I read. And it set the bar very high. Like, now I understand why everyone loves fake dating. But yeah, it just made me feel very happy. Like, it was just a book that just made me happy, and that's all I can ask of. And something that also made me very happy was Natalie becoming Nachi. Like, her reconnecting. I feel like I learned a lot of new perspective from this book, and I realized that maybe in the past I may have been like a little bit not understanding of the Latin Americans or the Latinos that live in, like, global north countries, either because they are diaspora or because they immigrated. Maybe I was like a little bit envious almost. That was like, oh, but you have all of these privileges and whatever. But I never stopped to. It wasn't until, like, last year, and with this book and many other things, that I stopped being like, okay, so maybe I should, like, actually pay attention to what it means to be disconnected to your country. Like that is a reality that I haven't stopped to think because I still live here, and so yeah, that was something that I really loved seeing in the book. And it's interesting also to see the divide that you mentioned, that I actually wanted to ask you, Lo, about later maybe, of whether you being Brazilian, being one of the only countries in Latin America that doesn't speak Spanish, when like the majority speaks Spanish and there are only a few countries that don't, and what that feels like, if it does feel like a disconnect. And but I also feel like all three of us, from one way or another, have been told at some point that we aren't Latinas enough, either being Brazilian, being Argentinian, or being diaspora. So I think that's something interesting to analyze later. But from the book itself, I loved it and it was amazing. And I will read anything from Gabi next.
So just to hit on my feelings about the romance real quick, it was so cute. Guys, it was so cute. Like Delphi said, it's just a book that makes you happy. Like I was smiling the whole time. And what I really care about when I'm reading a romance is whether or not a couple can like banter well. Like I like seeing a back and forth. I think it shows a lot of chemistry, and kind of a foundational friendship if you're able to like, make fun of each other and tease each other and like have fun just talking. And they do banter really well, and I loved the romance. I've never read fake dating outside of like fan fiction, so in a real book, it was so good. And I really liked the dynamics outside of the romance too, particularly the friend group. Some of the conversations in the group chat that she had with her friends was so funny, and it was great, and it was nice to see, teenagers actually acting like teenagers and not acting like too young and childish, but also not acting too adult, and just having fun with each other and being supportive, but also being like, you're being stupid and things like that. I didn't really notice some of the things that you mentioned, Lo, kind of the divide between Brazil and the other Latin American countries and things like that, because the thing that I honed in on the most was the disconnect. It was the feelings that she had of feeling like she wasn't actually Brazilian, she wasn't actually Latin American. And I felt like the book was such a unique blend of both a Latin American perspective and, the Latinx perspective in the US, because I was talking to Delphi about it. And you were mentioning that you were connecting to a lot of it. And I was like, well, I'm connecting to a lot of it too. And we have two wildly different experiences. And it's interesting to see a book that's covering both of it, because Gabriela Martin's just, she wrote it so well. She put everything that I have felt before into words. It's like I don't quite know how to describe it, and it feels weird describing it because it feels like I don't even deserve to say that I feel a disconnect, because I wasn't even born in Cuba. Like I was born here. So to say that I feel a disconnect from a country that I've only seen once is like weird. It feels like I don't deserve to say it, but that is what it feels like. It feels like this ache, like a hollow that's inside of you. And I really, the moment where Natalia calls her grandmother, and she's really nervous about it and she needs the support, and she like trips over her words and she gets really almost ashamed of herself. That was the part that really hit home the most, because I remember having a bunch of family reunions and like our family parties and stuff like that, and sitting at the corner of the table and pretty much not saying a word the entire night because I didn't want to speak Spanish to my family. Like the older people who obviously spoke it fluently didn't have any problems because they were born and raised in Cuba. Like I remember not wanting to speak a word because if I did, I knew it would have an American accent and I would inevitably like make some grammatical mistake or something like that. So I don't know. It made me very emotional too, in a very sad way.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but I also think that the book made its justice on the flip side, when the mom was like, no one in the family thinks of you that way. And I think that does apply to that. I mean, that probably applies to your family or to our family. I feel like it does apply that we wouldn't think that way. Like if you're from a family that's Latin American, you are going to belong,
Yeah.
and we are going to consider you like the Nachi's family considered her Brazilian, and Jean Karen was just happy to see her. And I feel like I have cousins from that now live in Mexico, and I wouldn't consider them Mexican. They are just part of my family, and nothing has ever changed. And they will always be Argentinian, and they will always be welcome. And
Yeah, but like just picking back off of what you just said, Delphi. I feel like there is this I keep thinking when you just said this, just of that what a part of the song that we listened to in the last time. We listened to Latino America by Calle 13, and there is this part in the song that he says, the one who does not want their country, el que no quiera su patria no quiera su madre.
no quiere su madre.
Yeah, so the one who doesn't want their country doesn't want their mother. And I feel like it's very much on the similar way on how we would see family and estranged
Yeah,
family. Again, I can't say if this is exactly your experience because, again, I am Brazilian. I live in Brazil. I am unfortunately still here.
you have to say it once a live show or a video.
Yeah, I mean, is it Latin American living if you're not
If you
cursing
don't
the
want
fact
to
that
run
you're
away.
here? You know, it's been raining anyway. But I feel like, and this is something that I feel like the book sort of touched a little, and it wasn't really the place for the book to explore. Again, there were a lot of things going on, but there is
Yeah.
also this sense that Nachi was really much aware of how much how much more difficult it is for the people who are behind. And I feel like whenever, and I really understood what Delphi said when she said that, sometimes we judged people who are in the diaspora a little harshly. It's mostly because of that. It's because staying here is very difficult. It feels like you're having a heartbreak a day. And it feels like and we've discussed this a lot, like how it feels like you're screaming and no one is listening to you. And then you look to people in the diaspora and go, well, everyone is listening to you. Like
Yeah.
it's a little bit on this sense. And I feel like it truly does offer a little bit of perspective on us, to offer a little bit of grace to this disconnect.
Yes.
Again, this disconnect is no one's fault but colonialism and exploitation of Latin American countries. And this is something that we have to be keenly aware of. And
Yeah,
but
it's. I think. Sorry, it's
no, go ahead.
not that there is a point that no one is to blame here. Like we are not to blame for our bitterness, almost quote unquote.
I would argue we have to blame Europe.
I mean, like specific individuals that we are like neither the diaspora, unless you're being a dick. That's like neither are we. So like it's a sort of just we are so enthralled in a system that's kind of sometimes fucking over all of us, but mostly us, that we should sort of need to put that aside and find a middle between us, like what we are feeling and not what we are forced to feel in this system. I don't even know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I feel like this book really balances it out really well, in the sense of there is the perspective of the Latin American diaspora, but is also the perspective of the Latin American people who stay behind and the people who are there, but also who are able to have very fulfilling lives living in Latin America as well. And I feel like all of this sort of adds to the point of Natalie feeling like Brazil moved on without her. And she clearly did not fit within the United States, and she made a huge effort to and did not. And so where does she, it's this weird limbo that I really hadn't had this perspective. And I think that I will never have this perspective, because even if I move from Brazil, I'm still Brazilian. I lived my entire life here. The way that I work and the way that I function is Brazilian. It's going to be until the day I die. And so I feel like it's an interesting glimpse into this experience that I'm never going to have, but it still pertains to my culture and the way I interact with it.
It's something I find interesting that you said that you've lived your entire life in Brazil, so you're always going to be Brazilian, which is obviously. But and I, but I personally, I'm also lived my entire life in Argentina. Will always be Argentinian, and will stay here for a bunch of years more before I hopefully leave. But that is something that feel I don't feel the same, in that I do fear that I do think a lot that if I leave, Argentina will continue on its own, and I will become someone who got away, someone who is hopefully living in a better situation, maybe. And I do fear that I will sort of stop being Argentinian, even though that's not going to happen ever. But it's definitely something that I do fear, especially because I tend to compare, which is I shouldn't do, but I always hear you talking so much about Brazil and Brazilian song artists and singers and everything. And I feel like I don't know that much from Argentina as much, and so I feel like I would almost like forget, and and that it doesn't make any sense, but it's just
No, it does
there's a lot of
make
worrying
sense.
in being Latin American and being Latinx. There's a
Yeah.
lot of worrying in general.
Yeah. But Jess, I was really wondering, do you think like in the resolution that she called her grandma and was like, "Hey," do you felt a little bit like that was somehow healing to you or somehow comforting to you in that moment?
I would say maybe a little bit. I do have to put this disclaimer that I feel like I read so many books and so many stories, like I'm constantly consuming stories, that now it's a little bit harder for stories to actually get through to the very core of me. So it's a little bit harder for me to, be healed by some of the things that I read. I feel like I'm a little bit desensitized to emotion, which is concerning. But it was a little bit healing to see her grandmother be, so sweet and loving and just kind of excited that she was calling at all, because it kind of feels like a reminder of, yeah, like I may feel disconnected and I may feel like I don't actually fit, but at the end of the day, like my family loves me. They're always going to love me and they're always going to be happy if I speak to them, no matter how I'm speaking to them. Like I have my mom's cousin, who every time that I speak to her, I start speaking in Spanish, and eventually a lot of the things that we talk about are like real estate and insurance stuff, and I really don't know the words in Spanish for some of that stuff, but she'll inevitably just switch to English without blinking an eye, with no judgment at all, in order to talk to me through the things that I just can't say in Spanish, and then we'll switch back whenever we're past things like that. So that easy sort of acceptance, just an appreciation of communication in whichever way it can be offered, is nice. What I felt was most cathartic, I guess, was just the ending scene of her finally going back to Brazil and spending time with her family. We didn't get to see it, sadly, like the book has to end eventually, but it was really nice to first see her at that final concert, like the Christmas special or whatever, fully embracing herself and saying, like I'm Brazilian, regardless of how people see me or what they think of me. I am Brazilian, and I'm going to own that. And then her being able to go home and spend time with her family and not feel like she has to run away from that. It was really sweet. I do feel like at the age that I am right now, like I'm about to turn 24. I've had my time of development where I already battled a lot of my insecurities, so I didn't really need a book to battle it for me. But I do feel like for teenage me and other people at that age that are experiencing the same things that I did, I think this would make such a difference for them. And I wish that teenage me had read this book. I wish it
Yeah.
had existed for me.
And I feel like this sort of connects a little with what Delphi says, because when we are raised in Latin America, it's sort of like we're taught to be ashamed of the country that we're from. And it's interesting because it's when I'm talking to you, Jess, or I'm talking to any other of my friends who are from the US, you're always taught how amazing your country is, how beautiful your country is, how incredible it is, how lucky you are. In Latin America, it's quite the opposite. You learn from a very young age that your country is kind of shit, and if you are lucky, you should kind of leave it. It's sort of like that, and it's a constant struggle to feel proud of it, to look at it and be like, well, I'm extremely proud of us and I'm extremely proud of my culture. And I feel like the way I'm more connected with it, Delphi, because first of all, my parents are huge leftists, and so my parents are very anti-capitalist, and they're
Well,
very
I have something
eager.
to add to that, so continue.
Yeah,
and then
my dad was always like, it's not better just because it's American. You have to stop doing that. And also, I was raised with a lot of music and stuff. This is something that my parents also did. But it has been a huge process. And this is what we call in Brazil, síndrome do vira-lata, or like mutt syndrome, something like that. Like, it's or stray dog syndrome or something like that. It's like when you feel like everything that you have is significantly worse, and it's not really. And being proud of this is actually something that is difficult for us as teenagers specifically. All of us teenagers in Latin America are obsessed with the country for a while. There are teenagers who are obsessed with the US, people who are obsessed with the UK, people who are obsessed with Japan. I was one of them. And so we're all obsessed with other countries before we learn to evaluate and value our own. And I
if
feel
we
like
ever learn that, because
if we
have
ever learn
learned
that, exactly. And I feel like it's also no, it's just something that it feels really interesting that it could be something that you as a Latinx person would have need as a teenager, but also something that I, as a Latinx person, as a Brazilian person, would have loved to read as a teenager, because it really speaks about this country and shows it in a very more positive light. And by the way, I would love to see the Christmas scene, not just because I wanted the book to go on for longer, but because Christmas in Latin America is probably the most chaotic experience that one could ever have. I would pay good money to see a British kid being thrown into the middle of the hurricane. Kids running around, the dog stealing food. It's hot as fuck outside. Someone has added raisins to the food and you don't like it, so people start arguing. And then it's 3 a.m., everybody's drunk, and then everybody starts fighting.
I am so sure that the video that you sent me this Christmas was like a mild version of what your Christmas.
Oh, Christmas this year was okay, which means that my uncle just pulled out like a guitar and we were singing until 2 a.m. Sometimes like the cops get called. People have to go to the hospital. Like it's just a level of insanity that is just another level.
Sometimes your great aunt pulls out a whole PowerPoint presentation and starts talking about the things that she hates about the group chat. That's my great aunt. She did that twice.
I love her. It's just so chaotic. It's amazing. I would love to have seen that, because I feel like every foreigner who comes to Latin America to spend Christmas is like, what is going on in this household? Like, people are arguing,
petition for a short story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I really want that. Yeah, I'm gonna.
We don't pay
write it. People are arguing over food, and then it turns into like, money you didn't pay me, and then your grandma is putting like dessert on a Tupperware and go like, do you need more food? Do you want more food? And just it's amazing.
And then your grandfather starts talking about like sexist stuff in front of all of your female aunts, because you have 100 million aunts.
It's really good. And then the political stuff comes up and people start fighting. It's great.
What were we talking about?
Sorry, you got my back up when you mentioned political stuff, because I'm like, dude, I'm not even very leftist, okay? I just believe that humans deserve a good life.
Yeah.
And apparently that's controversial. Sorry, I get
this year my mom decided that she was gonna cause trouble on purpose. And so she she started playing like the campaign song for the Workers' Party here in front of my aunt, who's a Bolsonaro supporter, and she just
No.
like roped everyone into singing in with her, and she's like, Lula is going to be president in 2020. Out of Bolsonaro, and it was a huge moment, and it was tame. Bear in mind, it was tame.
My family and I are just having like a ball with my grandfather because he's been Peronista his entire life, and in the past 1-2 years, in the past couple of months, he joined the Macri party, like
I
so
love
like
how,
the right wing party. He joined it, and now he's like supporting all of its candidates, and I'm like, everyone is like,
I want to know what's the switch for Latin American relatives, that it comes a point in life where they just turn super conservative. And like, I don't get it.
It's like 45 years
Oh,
old.
Jess, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Hold up. I was
I didn't mean to trigger you. I'm sorry about that.
I'm thinking about
sorry.
one very specific relative, and I'm not gonna say anything about it. Because even if I say something like, oh, my uncle or my cousin or anything like that, if somebody happens to stumble across this video, they'd know exactly who I'm talking shit about. So I'm not gonna say anything. Just say that if we weren't relatives, I would never speak to them, ever. But unfortunately we are, and I can't do anything, and my mom would yell at me if I didn't go to Christmas celebrations. So.
Yes.
I'm more scared of my mom.
Okay, I want to like rein it back in because I wanted to pick up on something that Lo mentioned like 10 million years ago. and that was the síndrome de Viralata.
Yeah.
Or thinking that everything we make is worse than and yes, Lo is right. Like you were raised, you had almost like the privilege to be raised by someone that was like, just because it's American, it's not better. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I was raised in basically the same way that every other Argentinian kid was, and that was we suck. Our economy sucks, and we have good football. It's like we are the best in the world, but we also suck very much ass.
That
and nothing that comes from here is bad.
That is very weird about Argentinians to me. That is a very Argentinian thing. I just want to point it out.
Like we seriously like we love ourselves, but we also think that we are the worst scum of the earth. But no, it's the thing is, we think our politicians and the people that are like above us that represent Argentina are like the worst people on earth. But we as individuals are amazing, and we love ourselves. I don't even know how to explain ourselves. We're so fucking weird. But yeah, I only ever started.
Brazilian, I would agree.
Like I don't even. I only ever started like actually connecting to Argentina and seeing it as not a shitty country when I started studying anthropology, when I started reading about the colonial theory, and when I was like, and when I literally texts were like, hey, this way you're thinking, that's the way that the Europeans want you to think. And I'm like, well, I don't want to think the way Europeans want me to think, so fuck you. And so I've only ever started like my journey of connecting to and getting to know Argentina for the past 2 years, basically. And it's hard because everyone around me just hates this country in a way that, I mean, I'm also surrounded by a very specific demographic that's like, I feel like the middle class in Argentina, particularly in Buenos Aires, is like a world of its own and has like a whole experience on its own. And so I'm very much surrounded by it, and it's very much like hate towards the country. And so it's, yeah, I basically have to like find my own ways to connect with my own country, because no one else is going to do it for me.
Yeah.
I also wanted to give just some perspective on the way I was raised, at least, because you mentioned that parents say, "Oh, your country is so great, everything is amazing." Like they give a very rose-colored view of what they left behind. I wasn't raised that way. I don't know if that's the way other Latinx people in like the global North was raised, but I definitely was not.
No,
My
I meant
parents gave
like
me
the
a very
US is a great place and it's amazing.
Oh, okay. Kind of.
But like in school as well. I feel like that is kind of it.
Oh yeah, no, school is very much is it too strong to say brainwashing?
No,
it's
it's
too strong.
I'm sure
it is
Rachel in the
very
comments will
much
agree.
like that. Yeah. But yeah, you are right in the sense of like they do kind of my parents have kind of raised me in like the US is so great and everything's perfect. Like I basically can't give much criticisms to the about the government or anything like that to my parents because inevitably the conversation is not about Cuba, mind you. I did not mention Cuba. I didn't even mention Latin America. It's got nothing to do with that. Inevitably, the conversation becomes about that. And inevitably, it's a comparison game here where, like, yeah, they barely even acknowledge that any of my criticisms are correct. They're just like, yes, but do you remember all of the stories I told you about Cuba and how horrible it is there and all the things that we left behind so that you could have a better life and da 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 da. And I'm like, I understand, but I could have an even better life if we critique things. But it's very hard. I think this is more a parent thing. I don't think it has much of an impact on my perspective, my view. Like, it didn't make me think that the US is so much better and like Cuba's a piece of shit. Like, I never thought that, and it never affected my point of view. I think it says more so about them and how they've been affected by the things that they're going through. And I think that people who have left their country and come to the US in general have two avenues, like two ways that they respond to that. Either one, they're always going to be talking about going back home and their home country was the best thing ever. They only want to go back home. That's their goal. And they're always going to look at their home country with rose-tinted glasses and think that that life was so much better and that in a way they made a mistake coming here. Or they'll put a lot of it on their kids and say, I sacrificed my life so that you could have something different, and kind of blame their kids in a way about everything that they love that they had to leave behind. Or two, they'll have rose-tinted glasses for the US, and the US could do nothing wrong because it saved them and everything is great here and there are no problems here because your kids are living a better life. So that's what I've seen in the parents that have come here and have their children here. One way or another, their perspective is skewed. I have not seen a single set of Latinx parents here that do not have a skewed perspective. I don't know how that affects their kids. I wasn't affected by it. I don't know. The US is a piece of shit too. I don't know any government that really isn't. But I also
your government
didn't
could suck, but you could also have labor rights.
But I also didn't have like a terrible perspective of Cuba either. Because like my parents and my family, like they told me all the stories of what it was like to live there and all of the things that they left behind. And yes, I'm grateful that they immigrated here. And I acknowledge that I was raised with a lot of privileges and comfort and luxury that I wouldn't have if I was in Cuba. But they did a good job of also saying all the beautiful things about life there and about the culture there. So it was more a sense of our home was broken and that's why we left, but it's now your job, i.e. my job, to remember that. And it's this sense of like, we're giving you all our stories so that when you have your kids, Cuba is not forgotten. The lives that we lived are not forgotten. So I feel like I went on a real tangent there, so I don't know if any of that made sense.
Interesting, and it really connects with the point of moving on without you, because I'm going to ask you a very difficult question, and if you don't want to answer, you're 100% okay not to, but I feel like there is also the pressure for you to remember a Cuba that doesn't really exist anymore because things have moved forward, And how do you think, because this is a pressure that Nachi goes through a lot in the book. She's like, trying to hold on to a country that has moved on and will continue to move on. Like, we're not stuck in time. And I feel when I talk, and this is what one of my major issues when I talk to people from the diaspora, because they have such an idea of this country, of Brazil or any other country that their parents immigrated from. And I'm like, well, okay, but things are not like that anymore. You know, is someone who left Brazil in the 90s, where, you know, the inflation was 3,000% a year and a president stole everyone's savings, that's going to be one perspective of how life was in Brazil. But if people talk about things today, how things are in Brazil, it's like, well, things don't work like that anymore. Like, you don't have to like hiding your money in your mattress is not going to be better than putting your money in a bank, because, you know, things like this don't happen anymore. Things, and it's interesting because since I have lived here, I saw the country evolve. But when you leave, it becomes a little bit more difficult to keep that connection. And I feel like it's a lot of burden on you to remember what it was without ever thinking of what it is now, if that makes any sense to you.
Mm. I'm not sure. I'm not sure because the stories that I get, a lot of them are from the past, you know, the lives that my parents have lived, that my grandmother has lived. But there are two things that are making me a little bit not sure about whether or not the Cuba that I know in my head is actually the Cuba of the past. Mm-hmm. One being, I've only been to Cuba once. It was when I was 17, and I went back with my sister, my mom, and my grandmother. And the way that my mom and my grandma described Cuba back then, which was 6 years ago, something like that, the way that they described it was that Cuba has been in what felt like a standstill for so long. Because the way that they described it, the way that they talked while we were on that trip, was that so many things are the same. You know, something so huge happened to Cuba with Castro coming into power that it was like things halted, like time stood still and Cuba wasn't able to keep moving. So that's the way they described it. I don't have the perspective to say whether or not that's true, but there's also the fact that all of my relatives, you know, the people that were raised in Cuba and grew up there, still stay in contact with family and friends in Cuba. So I don't just get the stories of the past. I also get the stories of now from those people that live there and who tell us how they're living. So I do have a more modern perspective of it as well. You know, we still talk to people there. I talk to people there as well. So I get their stories as well. So I have a Cuba in my head that is obviously more skewed towards the past because that's what they talk about the most. But because of what's happened, because it's felt like Cuba has been in a time bubble, and because I'm getting more modern perspectives as well, I think the Cuba that I have in my head is about as accurate as it can be for someone who never grew up there and has never lived there.
No. I got that. I was wondering if you don't think that like keeping this is part of the burden of the diaspora in a sense. You know?
Yeah. Okay. It is a burden to have. So are you essentially, just to make sure that I'm on the same page with you, are you essentially asking, like, is it a burden to be the one that has to keep the memories and pass them on, and to be the one?
Yeah, I was wondering if, like, how do you feel about that? If you feel like this is a burden, or how do you address that? Because it is a heavy weight to carry.
I wouldn't say that it's a burden, because I feel like calling it a burden, it has a sense of not disrespect, but a sense of like, I wouldn't want to carry it. So it is a heavy weight, but it's not a weight that I wouldn't want to carry. Like, I wouldn't want to say, I don't want any of this. I don't want this responsibility, but it's a frightening responsibility to have, because every now and then I'll think about, you know, what am I going to be like when I'm a mom, when I have kids? And it's the scariest thing ever.
Amazing. I just want to point it out. Amazing. Gonna be an amazing mom. I just want to say that.
Thanks. I appreciate that. If I ever even want to be a mom, that's a lot.
You. Oh my god. I'm probably going to live with you, and I'm going to like on your next vicinity. Okay, continue. Sorry.
I appreciate the endorsements. The uterus is closed. Okay.
Okay.
So let's revisit that in like 5 years.
No funny business in this uterus.
No. But if I should ever have kids, though, it's really frightening to think if I'm even like, do I even feel qualified enough to tell these stories? Like, I worry about just being able to teach them Spanish. Like, shit, is my kid going to be able to speak Spanish? Well, I don't know. And it's a bit of a comfort to have a significant other who is also Latin American. So, like, I can share that responsibility. The kid will speak Spanish in some way or another. I just don't know how well it's going to be, and that's not my problem anymore. They can take Spanish classes.
Want to say that, like, of the diaspora I've met, you speak really good Spanish.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that Jess had a very thick Cuban accent, and I'm like,
You do.
It all
Like
sounds the same
you
to
say
me.
you say you sound American, but like I hear the Cuban. I hear it.
See, my first response to you saying that I speak really good Spanish was to be like, are you sure? Because I definitely speak Cuban Spanish. You're gonna call that good? Like,
Okay. Well, okay. To be fair, no. But to be also fair, I'm from a country that somehow decided to conjugate all of the verbs differently from the rest of the continent, so I don't think I can speak on it.
At least you're not Chilean.
Nah! It could always be worse.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just repeating the talking points. I don't speak Spanish, so...
If there's any Chileno in the chat, then I'm not sorry.
No, the one that I first thought about was when I was in high school, I had a Dominican boyfriend, and his family, damn, I never felt more like I didn't know Spanish when they spoke.
No,
I did
Dominicanos
not
are impossible.
understand.
No.
There's this one word, vaina, which they use for like everything, just to say
like thing. It's just thing.
Yeah, we don't use that. I've never heard that used by a Cuban before. I spent 6 months trying to figure out what that word was because I also couldn't Google it.
They also use it in Venezuela. They also use it in Venezuela and Colombia, I'm pretty sure.
I have a deep hatred for the word now.
This is what I was talking about, the Latin American divide, because you're all discussing Spanish, and I'm like, that sounds great.
Yeah, and the book is about
awesome.
the book is about the Brazilians, so
No. I think it's interesting because at the same time there's just so much in common in the Latin American experience. But there is this really sharp divide that is the language, which I say sharp, but it really isn't, because if I type Spanish, if I type Portuguese, or if I read Portuguese, it's understandable. It's mutually understandable in a way.
Yes.
My favorite thing is reading your tweets and trying to figure it out.
But if Lo and I are talking, there is no way I can speak to her in Spanish and she can speak to me in Portuguese because we cannot understand each other.
No, I can't understand you. If you speak really slowly, I can get you, which is the problem. But not with you, like with all Argentinians, because you guys speak really fast. But if you speak slowly, I can get you. The thing with Portuguese is that Portuguese has many more sounds, and so it just sounds weird, apparently, to Spanish speakers. But written Spanish and Portuguese, it's mutually understandable in that way. And so we say that there is a sharp divide, but truly there really isn't. And I feel like there is, because as I said, Brazil is the US backyard, as I've mentioned this 1,000 times before. And it does feel like Brazil, in a way, wants to set itself apart from Latin America. And I'm not ashamed to say this because it's also part of this stray dog syndrome that I mentioned. It wants to set itself apart from Latin America. It doesn't want to be like part of Latin America. It wants to be associated with the US. And the US thinks this is amazing. This is awesome. Because, you get your backyard all for yourself. And whenever Brazil tries to go back to connecting with the rest of Latin America, then shit starts going downhill for us very quickly. So this sort of division serves a purpose as well. And I really like that this book shows a lot of the similarities between cultures. The words might not be exactly the same, but there is a lot of similarities in the way that we act, the way that we interact with our family, the way that we consume things, the way that we play with our friends, like this very touchy-feely thing of being
Yeah.
hugging all the time and being really
Yes.
close all the time, etc.,
That
etc.
healthy respect for your mom. That was
A
the thing
healthy
that I
respect
liked
for your
most.
That okay. That you guys mentioned the bomb, and I like immediately remembered something that I wanted to point out, that maybe it's like a small detail, but I really loved seeing it, and it was, and I don't want to like I don't want this to like come out wrong, but I loved seeing an immigrant Latin American parent that was a qualified professional.
Mhm.
That didn't just like emigrate with $2 in their pocket and had to work as a maid or something. Not to shame any of those people that actually do that, like at all. Those people are like incredibly respectable. But I also loved
Getting this perspective, right?
Yes, that like
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. It's actually
the
pretty interesting now that you brought it up, because again, not saying that the experience of moving and having to take those low-paying jobs in order to settle themselves in the country, that is very much respectable and
of
amazing,
course,
and
100%.
it's interesting. But I feel like this is also the narrative that is associated with Latin America as immigration
exactly.
as well.
Exactly.
And so when someone from Europe immigrates to the US, that is not the narrative that is associated with their immigration. They're usually going for overqualified jobs, they're getting company jobs, and etc., etc. They moved because they wanted to. They wanted to experience American life. And when Latin American characters move, it's always because they wanted to escape something. And it feels interesting that Nachi's mom went because she was so qualified that she could have this opportunity, and she got it, which is very true, for like factually true for a lot of Latin Americans, because like
she got she got her job and her professional qualities in Brazil. And like we have amazing universities, we have amazing professionals, like and that is never shown, and it's like that's also a reality
it's
of
an
Latin
interesting
American
representation. And now that you brought, I really hadn't thought of it that way, and you're right, because like all of my friends who went to the US, who moved to the US, who moved to Europe, they went because they were overly qualified. And they joke around, like all of them, legit all of them, they joke around and they say that a Brazilian professional is incredibly respected abroad because we are not used to getting anything. And so like my friends who went to college in the US, like one of my best friends is finishing up her LLM in Harvard, and she was like, Harvard is so good, etc. And she went there and she was like, I had to study harder when I was in Brazil. because in Harvard they will give you everything that you need to study, they will offer you everything, and here if you get a teacher you're very lucky. And so, but the level of requirement, the level of expectations on you are unchanged whether you have a teacher or not. And so you have to sort of teach yourself and come across and just sort of pull things out of your ass. And this makes us very resourceful as people. And because of, again, we don't have access to shit. And so you get to a lab and there's like a microscope that works. And then Brazilians are like, I'm going to stay in this lab for 15 hours. This is amazing. And so it's so much that. And again, we don't realize how much overly qualified we are and how impressive we are. And I feel like I felt this when I was applying for a PhD, because I was like, nothing that I have done is impressive on my standards. And then Rachel was like, you literally got into law school when you were 17. And I was like, yeah, but everybody does it. And then Rachel was like, no, they don't. That doesn't happen like that. And so like,
dude, the news would have written a story on you in the US if you got into law school.
But it's so common here. It's so common here. Like I had a lot of friends who went into law school when they were 17, and it's incredible. Like or like, for instance, when I was doing my master's degree, a lot of people were really shocked that I was working full-time and doing a master's degree full-time. Normal. Completely normal. People will do college and work full-time. People will do PhDs and work full-time. Like no one bets, and people actually expect you to do that. Like when you are in
Wait,
college,
so-
people expect you to work.
Sorry, because like, is that not what people do in the USA? Because I
No.
picture myself like having to like move because I'm going to study a master's and also work full time there, because that's the only way I can think of.
Especially in
working?
law, it's not expected that you're going to work.
In law school, you're not allowed to work in the first year, at least. It's in the rules you cannot work during the first year of law school. Throughout the rest of, let's say, master's level, like law school, master's levels, things like that, you could work full time. A lot of the people that work at my firm who are law students, they go to law school in the evening and they work at the firm full time during the day. It's considered a difficult thing to do if you go to grad school and work full time at the same time, but it's also kind of an expected thing to do. You got to fund that master's degree somehow. For PhD, if you're working, you're probably working for the university that you're studying, as in like teaching classes or something like that. Because the way that I've been advised is that if you're doing a PhD program and they're not paying for you to go there, and if they're not giving you the funds to go and study at their school, or they're not giving you a deal where all you have to do is teach for them and it funds your program, it's not a good PhD program.
Yeah.
Like if you have to work full time in addition to that, it's not a good program.
Yeah, and here is the opposite. You're expected to go through a program, you're expected to teach at the program, and you're expected to work full time. So I got into a PhD here, and I am fully aware that I'm going to work as an attorney over 40 hours a week, and I'm going to do my PhD. And, no one really thinks about that, But when you say these experiences abroad, people are like, oh, you did that? Yeah, I did it. What else was I supposed to do, And it's a little bit like that. And it's really interesting because I have friends who actually have scholarships, and so they don't have to work full time. They can just focus on their studies. And a lot of people go like, but you just study? You're not working, you're not doing anything, you're just studying? And so there is this expectation that you will do these two things at the same time. There's a lot of hustle involved in being Brazilian. And I feel like this translates really well abroad. And so, and again, going back to the point that we were saying, a lot of my friends, I do have people, family, etc., who went to the US for, those entry jobs that didn't pay really well and suffered a lot. But the majority of my friends today who went to the US are working like in the Inter-American Development Bank, are working for law firms in New York City, Wall Street. They are working for universities. They are software engineers, doctors, people who do things like that. And they're very qualified. And I feel like, and I wonder actually, if there isn't a degree of harm in repeating those narratives about Latin American immigration being only need-based and not merit-based. You're saying, Delphi?
No, that I just am I allowed like one small bragging moment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
One of the when I was in high school in my senior year, we were told that one of the top 10 engineers in NASA is a graduate from my high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're pretty fucking good. Like in general, like we have pretty fucking good professionals. Yes.
I want to make one point / bragging on behalf of my mom. And then there's a comment for you, Lo. But I just want to brag about the fact that my mom was a mechanical engineer and a college professor in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
A badass lady. I will say, however, she was one of the people who immigrated and then had to take a low-paying job because she was told that her qualifications didn't transfer.
Oh,
her qualifications didn't transfer, and she had twin 2-year-olds. She couldn't go back to school in the U.S. So, yeah.
Which is also, this is extremely
factory.
Violent. I just want to say that this is an extreme violence, and not recognizing those degrees is anyway.
But I want to say that that's something that I also see happening here, especially with Venezuelan immigrants here in Argentina. That happens a lot, that they are very qualified in Venezuela, but their degrees don't transfer immediately here, and so they have the unqualified low-paying jobs. I see that all the
That's
time.
interesting. I have a lot of, not here, not in law school. In law school is less common, but like engineering, med school, they have a lot of like Peruvian, Bolivian, Venezuelan, Argentinian teachers because it does translate over here. Or if it doesn't, you take a test and it does. It's something like that. And so a lot of Brazilians go to med school in Argentina as well. Because
Yes,
they couldn't get here, they go to Argentina. I am sorry
yes,
about that.
no. Our med school is really good. Although some people do tend to like have a trouble because our university is very, very good, but it's also like free for everyone,
Yeah.
for literally everyone. And some people have like an issue that some like immigrants like come here, they get a degree, and then they go back to their countries and like use it there. And so like that's like a thing, but it's fine. You can use it.
I mean, university is free here too. At least some universities are free. And so there is my university has a special entrance program for refugees. So at any given point, like people who are refugees taken in by Brazil are offered positions in universities because of that. It's interesting because it offers a lot of diversity to the school as well. And the school is really good. So, but it's interesting that despite the qualifications not translating, when the Brazilian student or the Latin American student goes out, there is an appreciation for the amount that we're willing to put into our work. I remember this because I was sort of the chaperone of an American professor when we went to Manaus, the fateful Manaus trip. The one with the ants, the one where I got dragged by dolphins, the fateful trip where I went to the Amazon. And I was, talking to her around of the things that I did while I was in college, like the study groups that I was working full time doing like community practice. I was doing this practice of this extension project that we called that. We were doing LGBTQ plus analysis of legislation for public policy. I was doing study groups. I was doing research. I was doing a lot, and without a lot of resources. And they were like, well, the students here are not really like that. And so it just translates well. And I feel like, and going back to the book, I feel like there hasn't been, I feel like this is an extremely subtle, but very positive reaffirmation of what we are able to achieve and the opportunities that we are given and what we can achieve when those opportunities are given, because the origin story, quote marks, of Nachi is not the origin story that we're accustomed to see in Latin American characters portrayed in, not that there's anything wrong. It's just that it's not 100% of the time.
One reality that exists versus this reality that also exists. Yeah. And we should see all realities because that's supposedly what the diaspora stories are supposed to tell. Right?
I mean, I just hate when Latinx people tell me what to say of my own country. That's like, you don't even go here. Shut the fuck up. Stop.
Yeah. No.
All right. Well, there is a comment related to what you were talking about earlier from Luana, talking about the part where she's saying why everyone.
I'll do you one better. The part where Nachi says, "When I say I'm Brazilian, everybody asks if I'm from Buenos Aires," and I'm like.
I read that and I was like, I'm so sorry.
That happens so often. That happens so often. And I'm always like, okay, thank you. But it's really interesting. And one thing that I feel like she didn't touch a lot, because I feel like it would be a little too heavy for a YA book, is the hypersexualization of Brazilians. And I feel like Latinas in general are very hypersexualized, but Brazilians are in another level. And I have this perception, if I'm wrong, if you think I'm wrong, you can disagree with me, but it's just that every time that you say that you are Brazilian, there is another level of sexualization that is put on your body. And people are like, it's free real estate. And so, like, people feel free to inquire, like, do you wax your genitals? Is your butt real? And they will touch your butt to see if it's real. Like when I went abroad, which is why I lie and say that I'm American, because, people think it's just easier on me. but it's also like there is this level of the hypersexualization of Brazilians, and this is extremely damaging. And I wonder what this story would be like if this aspect would be put into Natalie's perspective, because it's a huge thing. You say that you're Brazilian, you get some shit. You get some shit. I'm not sure if other nationalities get some shit, but I have gotten some shit, and it's disheartening to see, really, this sort of point be brought up. There's two things that I really hate: Brazilian wax and Brazilian butt lift.
As in the name or the thing?
I hate the name. You can do whatever you want. You want to inject silicone up your butt? You do whatever. I just hate that it's called Brazilian butt lift and Brazilian wax, because it is sexualizing.
Wasn't it like created in?
No. Brazilian butt laugh. Oh, Brazilian wax.
Isn't it just like a US thing? Like wasn't it some
In
American
Brazil,
thing
you
up with the name?
can wax or you can shave. It's like everywhere else. Like people have been using wax to wax themselves off
And
for a lot of time.
I mean, it's a very specific type of waxing style that they're calling it that. It's weird that they call it Brazilian wax.
It's what's in your butt,
not just waxing
right?
in general.
It's what's in your butt, right?
It's
Your
being
butt
hairless. If I remember correctly, it's just being hairless.
Which is
which is called like waxing.
A lot of people have done that throughout the ages and throughout. Like it's not Brazilians haven't come up with that. And Brazilian butt lift is so that your butt can be as big as a Brazilian's.
Okay.
Just fun.
Honestly, you said that it would have been maybe too heavy for a YA, but I feel like it could have easily be fit in to the narrative, considering how much she's exposed to the media and the public, and already.
Maybe this would be a good perspective for a second book. Now that she truly embraced this identity, like what are the consequences for it? Like what did it mean?
Yeah, and especially considering that like you have told her like those types of experiences as a Brazilian, you lived very young.
Yeah.
Like younger than Natchi, and so.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, you're right.
Like, I feel like in Latin America, you are never too young to realize that you are sexualized. I was first catcalled at 11 years old.
Oh no, I'm not even calling. I'm not even counting that because
Isn't Nachi like what is she, 16, 17?
Yeah, she's 17 going on 18.
Yeah.
I feel like this would have fit into the book perfectly. It wasn't, because I understand this is supposed to be a fluffy romance, and eventually we should talk about the fluffy romance that made us all feel good.
Oh, right.
But it would have fit in this book because, like, I mean, first of all, let's not forget that any young woman, like pop star or actress or something, inevitably, I think it's less so now, but I think it's still a thing where they do countdowns for their 18th birthday.
I mean, they did with
have you guys heard of that?
Like, yeah, of course.
Like tabloids and media will do like countdowns, counting down the days until they're finally 18, and not like
they did with
the days until they're legal.
And with Billie Eilish.
Yeah, they did, and they did it with Emma Watson too. Was another one that they did it with.
And Natalie Portman.
Ignorance is bliss. I was happy not knowing that.
I thought you.
Well, I'm sorry to tell you.
Yeah.
It's a thing, and I feel like that would have been a bit too much for this book. It would have been complicating the story a little bit too much. Yeah, but I feel like there could have been a line or two about like her being sexualized or stereotyped as like a sexy Latina and everything, because there is quite a bit of discussion about her view in the media, like her image in the media as a pop star, which, mind you, is a discussion that we haven't touched on at all, but I also really loved hearing it about, how being in the public eye, she feels a need to essentially falsify who she is entirely. Like the whole discussion about straightening her hair and not wanting to get too angry in public and all of that stuff.
I feel like all of us have straightened our hair, our curly hair. Like the three of us have curly hair, and the three of us have straightened it in high school, right?
my hair is not what it used to be. I feel like I've talked to you, Delphi, about this before.
Yes.
Like, my goal is to get my hair back to what it used to be, because I used to have ringlets. Like, I had curly hair. There was no discussion about whether or not it was
Yeah.
curly. My hair right now, wavy at best.
I mean,
Like, what did I do to it, really?
Yeah, like
My sister's hair, she had like think Shakira hair, like that really thick curls that had like a
Yeah.
lot of volume to it. My sister's hair was gorgeous. And after dyeing and straightening it for years upon years, where she never went out with curly hair, it's not the same anymore. It doesn't curl that way anymore.
I have a point to make about that. Because, and it ties a lot to the way that race is perceived in Latin America.
Yeah.
And so it's not just I am going to straighten my hair because, and I'm not sure if this is the case in the US, Justin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a huge thing in Latin America that you have to make yourself as white as you can, which includes straighten your hair. And so it's something that we're taught to do while we're very young. And it's sort of expected that we will do it when we're very young and start straightening the hair, making sure that our hair looks, etc., not going to the sun much. And there is a lot of that in Latin American culture. And so when Nachi talks about her struggle with her hair, I also feel like it comes from this place of this Latin American perspective of this is a requirement that sort of means that you're starting to become more acceptable in terms of society, because
it felt to me like she was trying to be palatable for a US audience.
Exactly. But in my perspective, I read that, like, the scene that she comes out with her hair wet for the first time, and I was like, that is so important. That is such a huge moment where you finally step out of the house with your hair curly and you're like, you think everybody's looking at you. No one's giving a shit about you. Like, you're not that important, but you think that everyone is looking at you, which is amplified by the fact that she's a pop star and maybe everyone is looking at her. But if you're a regular person, no one's really giving you shit. And it's just such an incredible, empowering moment where you're like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Because I really was a person who wouldn't leave the house if my hair wasn't like bone straight. And, you know, nowadays I have curly hair. I like my curly hair. I use it a lot. And it does go back, by the way, Jess. You just have to be a little patient with it. Because
I don't know what to do with it.
I've
never been good at beauty stuff.
Apply heat to your hair. That's how it works.
Never again apply heat?
Never apply.
What about a blow dryer?
No, you can use a diffuser to sort of blow your hair. Never again apply like
I'm
a hair
scared of blow dryers. I've never been able to blow dry my hair in a way that looks nice.
I don't like it either. Oh no, you're not gonna come here. Are you? Oh my Dios.
Kitty.
Oh, should I call Clementina?
My kitty.
Hold up. I'm going to see if
Oh, they're sleeping. I'll leave my kitties alone.
Anyway, we have a guest.
Hi. I love you.
Shit. Okay, sorry.
I love you.
Wait. Okay, the bots.
US perspective. So I don't know. It's a bit different because obviously there is, the racism and everything where people try to look more white. But in my memory, I don't remember it being that extreme. And it's helped by the fact that I was raised in South Florida specifically. We are a very diverse region of the US, and very specifically a diverse Latinx region of the US. So I remember the hair thing, everyone straightening their hair a lot. Was that a racist thing? Maybe. Was it just like a 2000s trend thing? Maybe. I really can't tell. But the skin thing, not so much, because I feel like the obsession with having like tan skin has been around for a really long time. So I personally never experienced anybody like, not going into the sun. And
but like having a tan was fine. Being dark was not. And there's a threshold that you cross.
You wouldn't believe this, but like I used to get like really dark in the sun. Like I had a perpetual tan with my childhood was the only time that I actually looked Hispanic. So as a kid, I never experienced any of that because like I would go into the sun for 2 minutes and I was like 3 shades darker, and that was just what it was. But I don't know. Like I have a bit of a privileged perspective in the fact that I was raised in a region that had a lot of Latinx people. So we didn't have as much like Eurocentric ideals, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm like pulling little memories from the brain and trying to make sense of it. What's your cat's name?
Sirius, like the star, not the turf.
Yeah.
Oh, filho da puta! No,
It looked like you just tossed him.
Yeah, no, he's just here hanging around on my shelves. But he wanted to play where I keep my sewing stuff, and I'm like, no, I'm not pulling needles all of you today.
No.
Now there's cat hair all over my face. But anyway, you wanted to talk about the romance dress?
Yes, let's talk about
it's a romance book, so I feel like that should probably happen at some point.
Yeah. I tell you, we had like crackhead energy bottled up.
This romance was cute. It made me happy. This romance was cute. It made me happy. It's what he deserved after her ex.
Yes. But I also like that they had really good, like, there was the miscommunication, the inevitable miscommunication trope, which I usually don't like.
Third act breakup.
Yeah, but it did make sense because they were teenagers, and teenagers aren't necessarily smart. And so I felt like, yeah, that's in character, I feel.
And also, I personally didn't feel like it was a miscommunication, that like it was triggered by miscommunication, because William didn't leave because he didn't like automatically leave because he thought that Natchi had kissed Trent like voluntarily, but he left because of all of the culmination of all of the things regarding fame and public life and everything. So I didn't even think it was miscommunication, and I thought it made total sense for him to leave.
I do think it's BS that he just left without saying goodbye, though. Like, that was a very teen thing to do, to run away without seeing in person. Yeah, it was a very teen thing to do.
Romantic, but like, I don't know, I thought it was... I wasn't mad at it. I was just like heartbroken because I wanted them together. And so I was... And then like the book kept going and they didn't get back together, and I was like,
I need the Harry Styles.
Wait.
That was such a random combination.
I don't even know who Anita is.
Anita is a Brazilian funk singer, like a funk carioca singer. Why would you? I don't understand this comparison. Luana, come here, ask her for your crimes. What was this?
I don't know who Anita is.
So like, Anita is like a funk carioca singer. Like, she's really major in Brazil.
Okay.
And Harry Styles is Harry Styles. I just don't understand why you would put the two of them together. It sounds like...
It was just fan casting. That's all. Like, who would play them in the movie?
It sounds like a weird Wattpad fanfic. I'm sorry for dissing you on this, but...
I need to see what this person looks like.
Yeah, see...
I
guess.
Yeah, I know who she is.
Oh, I definitely do not know who she is.
I kept imagining, like, I saw the cover, I knew he had brown hair and everything, but I just couldn't stop imagining William as the actor that's going to play Nick on the Heartstopper adaptation, Kit Connor. I couldn't stop thinking about him in that way. Like, you know, do you guys get, like, when you start reading a book and somehow you get like a mental image of what the character looks like, and it's like completely opposite to the description, but no matter how many times you read the description of the character, you can't imagine them otherwise.
Mhm,
That happens
mhm.
a
I
lot of
never
the time.
get a clear image of like this person looks like this. I could point them out in a crowd. Like I don't get a clear image like that. I just got every time I tried to picture what William looked like, I was just like puppy dog. He has
Yeah,
golden
yeah.
retriever energy to me. He is
Yes.
scruffy and adorable. He would probably trip over his own feet. Didn't he do that? I think he actually did that in the book. I'm not sure, but
I don't remember. He has cute socks.
he's not Harry
That was
Styles
other-
to me. I will say that. He
No,
is not Harry Styles.
no. He
Harry
had
Styles
cute
is too
socks. I
small.
can't get over the socks. He had cute socks.
The
Like, he
superhero
loved his
socks.
socks.
The
He loved
superhero
his
socks.
socks. He was so proud about his socks.
See, no, this is one of the things that I love the most about this romance. And I mean, not necessarily about this couple, this pairing, but the way the romance was written, where you see how they go from being strangers.
I will never be able to see this book and not see Anita hairstyles. This looks like a terrible Wattpad fanfiction. I hate it. I hate it.
Are you imagining like the 2000s era of like edited banners that people would make for their fan fictions
Ooh.
and stuff? Love that.
You called me out on that one because
The
I
really old Anita pictures when she was just starting. Oh,
I genuinely
God.
remember like writing a Wattpad story and literally googling a girl with black hair and blue eyes for the cover, and I literally googled that.
I remember
Just-
that era of time. But
Ugh.
anyway, what was I saying? Oh, right. Like when you're my goodness, that pattern of like being in a relationship and you start out being total strangers. And what I love is like the intimacy of understanding people's habits. Like what was it? William at some point, or maybe it was the other way around. One of them said, "Oh, you only say that when you're like trying to bother me," or something like that. Like the intimacy of getting another person's habits and understanding like the little things that they do and understanding the
Yes.
things that they care about a little bit is so cute to me. And that's what screams like love to me, when you know the littlest things about them and you understand them. And I love that. And the superhero socks, when she got him those socks as a little way of being like, I love your socks, even though like what was it, his publicist had just said you shouldn't wear your socks. I love your socks and I wanted to support this thing you love by getting you socks.
I love that they are on the cover.
Why are
because
socks
his
making me cry?
there.
Yeah, they made
Yeah.
it the socks in the cover. I
They
don't have the
make you
physical edition of
socks!
the book.
We went from
It's
talking
just-
about existential identity, diaspora things to crying about socks.
I feel like we went the opposite direction that we would have been natural, starting with the lighthearted, fluffy
Yes,
things and then
starting with the
descending into the
cutes
very
and
deep
then-
themes of the book.
No.
And we skipped over that. For the past hour and a half, we were like, romance? I don't know her.
Oh my God.
We
it's
only
been an
know
hour and a
misery
half.
here.
Oh shit.
And now we're crying over socks.
I actually have to go buy dinner like in the bed.
I know.
I didn't see time go by. Do you guys want to do a round of final impressions? And then,
Hold
since I
on
have
real
to
quick. Let me see if I
grocery
had
shop.
any questions that I wanted to ask.
Okay, for the next
There's
one,
cat hair
let's do
all over
bullet
me.
points. Let's do bullet points for the next one, or else we're miss.
Okay.
I think I've discussed
Real
everything
quick,
I wanted.
I wanted to ask y'all, this is like
Yeah.
lightning round here. First, favorite side character in the book.
Brandon.
Padma.
Oh, I love that you guys picked the friends like that. Brenda was the one who showed up at the hotel room, right?
Yeah.
Loved that. I loved her making fun of her friend and of William.
Very
I love that
Brazilian
so
friendship.
much.
I
Loved
love
it.
Padma.
Another question, which is like somewhat unrelated to the story, but I thought it would be fun considering this is a fake dating trope, and I feel like it's been on Twitter a lot. Of all the celebrity couples that you see right now, which one do you think is a PR relationship?
Shawn Mendes
Do you think
and
any of
Camila
them
Cabello.
are fake dating?
No, but they have broken up already. I don't know.
Who?
They're broken up.
Yeah,
And
who did
Shawn
we
Mendes
say?
Tom
and
Holland
Camila
and
Cabello
Zendaya.
have broken up.
Tom Holland and Zendaya.
No, I refuse
I
to
don't
believe
think
that.
so. I don't think so. I think they've been friends for too long. I think they're really cute together, and I don't want it to be PR.
I'm
This
weirded
is the
out.
one relationship where I'm like, I love you. I don't usually care about celebrity relationships, but this one I'm like, that's
The
good.
thing is, I don't think I know any relationships that are going on right now.
Whatever's going on with Kim Kardashian.
No,
Kim Kardashian and
I
Pete
just think
Davidson.
that Pete Davidson has this weird allure to people, and he just
I don't even know.
Pete Davidson is that weird guy that you probably shouldn't fuck, but you still do because you're like, I want some adventure in my life, and then it just crashes and burns like 2 months later. It's just that. I don't think that that is a PR, but like
I
the
just feel
one
like
that
it's
I was,
really convenient timing, considering
I
like the
think-
media was going after Kylie.
I think all of Leonardo DiCaprio's girlfriends are PR stunts.
No, because
Fair.
Camila Morrone right now, they've been going for 3 years, and also she's like
It's a long con. It's a long con.
and also she's the stepdaughter of Al Pacino, so like she like I don't think she's like I don't think I think they are legit.
All right,
I don't think
Rachel
Kim
just came in
Kardashian is dating.
with a
I don't think
twist
she's
on the story.
dating Pete. I don't think she's dating him as a PR move. I think she's trying to make Kanye jealous.
Okay, but I feel like it was really convenient that when Kylie's getting shit for what happened at, what was it, Astroworld or something, right at that time, Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson come out into the news. Convenient, isn't it?
God
I think
damn,
it's
I hadn't
suspicious.
thought of it that way.
I truly haven't been on social media for so long.
Look, he's funny. His stand-up show on Netflix was really funny. And
I'm not saying he's a
actually,
bad person. I just don't believe it.
yeah, like the scene that really made me like him, that was like, this guy's actually really funny. It's one that ran as a meme when All Too Well 10-minute version came out, that he was like, shit is catchy. Shit is very catchy. You're gonna have a rough 8 months. I'm really sorry about that. Because he dated Ariana Grande and she made a song about his dick, something like that. And all of his friends were like, no, it's just good. And then all of his friends like turned to him and were like, shit is catchy. You know, it's really good scene. Gonna send it to you. It's really good. He's really funny. But I my opinion was that Kim K was dating him to make Kanye jealous or something like that. I don't know. I don't know why Pete fucking Davidson. I don't know. Like, he's not Kanye. That's enough for Kanye to be jealous, I feel like.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, I don't know who's a PR. Camila Cabello and Shawn
Shawn
Mendes
yeah.
was the one that I was like, this is PR.
Yeah, Shawn Mendes and
Probably.
Camila Peluca. Yeah, definitely.
Camila Peluca.
I will. All right, I will cry if Zendaya and Tom Holland are a PR relationship. I don't know why I'm invested in these two. These are the only two celebrities that all of a sudden I care about because I'm like, y'all look cute together.
I just truly never saw it coming, and I truly thought that Zendaya would end up with Zac Efron after Rewrite the Stars. I genuinely
what?
After Rewrite the Stars, like
this one music video, this one song, rewrote history for you for the past years.
I saw. Look, I was invested in that musical, and I ended up watching a lot of interviews.
Just pause to see Lo fighting with a cat.
I love how you expose yourself as like wearing your beautiful blouse and just shin shorts.
Yeah, with the side.
Pero ¿dónde se fue?
I need to get this out.
Takes a pause while she wrangles the cat. Alright. Once Lo is back, I mean, I have one more question before this feels like a comedy movie that we're watching.
Hi. Hello.
All right. Last question, and this is gonna be a part of like final impressions, but I just wanted to hear everyone's like favorite scene of the entire book. And this goes for whoever is watching too. Like I want to know your favorite scene, like your favorite part of it.
When they're playing in the water.
Oh, that's a good one. I love the scene where she's in the airport and she calls her mom.
Oh yes. Oh yes. I heard her like real talks with her mom. Yes, I love those. because it's like I have so many real talks with my mom. Latin moms are just like they're the best.
My favorite scene is in the airport, but after the phone call when she talks to the two Brazilian fans. It was so sad when they were like, they wanted her to tour to Brazil, and then but then they like started going on. They were like, "Oh, but we know we're not asking you to go to Brazil. Like, we know you would never go to Brazil. Like, there's other places that you would go." And I was like, "But she's literally Brazilian. Why wouldn't she go to Brazil? Like, you guys are gonna make me cry."
I actually
so
laughed at that scene because "Come to Brazil" is a huge meme, and I was like,
I laughed at that one because
I was sad about it.
I laughed at that
really
one because I just kept thinking like Taylor Swift doesn't know Latin America exists.
Yeah, she there was this meme. She came to Brazil once. There's so many memes when she came to Brazil, and there was this meme that her mom had forbidden her to come to Brazil. And it was like a whole thing, and it was like fake news, and it was so funny. There's this I have to find this picture of.
God.
I just want to point out that the chat right now is on my side with this being the best scene. Y'all made it into a meme. It was cute and emotional.
I'm sorry. It's just
that's the thing. Like you guys make everything Latin American very beautiful. We just laugh at it.
I don't think this is about making Latin America beautiful. This is about two teen girls who were like, "You're my idol. We want you to come so bad."
It was cute. It was cute.
No, it was super cute. It's just like the Brazilian instinct is to make it into a meme.
Yes, I just laugh, and yeah.
How funny would it be if that was her intention in writing that scene? Or like everyone would think it's emotional, but any Brazilian would be like,
"But I was like, ha."
Oh, hold up, Luana! Saying like, was she actually going to come to Latin America? Because if she was, then I'm going to cry.
Lover tour, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you have got to Lover tour. You have got to fucking.
But then COVID happened.
Like, Concha vieja. Oh!
Yeah, people were having a lot of issues trying to get refunds for the tickets to I remember that.
Lo, what the hell is this that you just sent?
Oh, it's look. It's okay, so
what is this?
The parrot. Let me explain. So the thing is, it's just, this is why it's a meme. It just the parrot was the sidekick. I'm gonna send the picture in to show on your phone. Wait. He was the sidekick of this like morning show that happened that on the mornings that had like cooking stuff and stuff. It's like a morning show. And the lady who presented this had this foam parrot puppet or something like that. He was called Louro José. And the guy who made him like died the other day, but he was really iconic and he was like around for 20 years. And so Taylor Swift went to meet with the reporters for that show and they gave her a small Louro José as a gift. And then that picture happened where she's looking at his butt and it became a huge meme. And I use it as a WhatsApp sticker every once in a while. Look, it's Brazil.
She looks so baffled.
She's like, what the fuck? It's so good. It's really good. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. Oh yeah, she still has it apparently.
No me muero.
Oh. Yeah. And then Taylor Swift apparently. I mean, if someone gave me a parrot, I feel like I would keep it, especially if it became
it's a cute
meme.
Parrot. Look, she still has it, like under her Grammy. I'm gonna send the picture. It's cute. It's a cute picture.
I don't even know what we would give to her. We would probably give her a mate.
Yeah, see, it's still on her shelf.
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, I feel like we would probably give her mates.
Yeah.
No, I think we will give her a card of San Ricky. Hold up. Hold up.
All right.
I actually have one of these.
Are you sending a picture in the group chat too?
I am sending it, yeah.
Somehow I have become the photo shower.
Yes.
After this is done, I'm gonna send you a lot of memes of this parrot because
Okay, so this guy was called Ricky Ford. He was an icon of our TV. He was a gay icon of our television, and he also owned a chocolate factory. And he passed away like a couple of years ago, and so he's our patron saint, basically. Yeah.
All right. Are y'all ready to
Okay.
give final thoughts?
Yes. The books, yeah, right.
Yeah. So my final
We all
thought
read a
is,
book.
I read a book and I loved it. I had a sneak peek of Bad at Love, which is coming out on this summer, and it's chef's kiss, amazing, incredible, absolutely love it. Everyone's gonna go freaking cuckoo bananas because it's so fucking good. So hopefully we'll be reading more Gabriela Martins in the year to come because I really liked it. And I think that everybody should read it because, again, this is what I've been saying. A good YA book tells a really fun story in the surface, but it's able to go at some really deeper levels in the background. And I feel like as adults, when we're reading YA, like a lot of people who are adults reviewing YA to sort of focus on the surface level, but we have to focus on the underlying themes that are going behind the story and understand like how this sort of functions in this context and what are the things that this book is trying to go get through in this veneer of a really fun, lighthearted story. And I think Gabriela did this really well. And I absolutely love the book. And I'm eager to just discuss Bad at Love with everyone because it's so good. So, yeah.
I feel like this book was amazing, and not only like on itself, and I feel like I'm very guilty of the síndrome de Viralata, like of the stray dog syndrome, and so I now need to like go ahead and dig and find YA authors in Argentina that are like have written books in English that are available. They're not. It's I feel like that's an exception in the industry, but like I have to find someone. Like there has to be a book that I can share and that I can read and that I can love as much as this book, and also just in general of Latin America. I just need to find them and get out of my ass. And yeah, I will also read Bad at Love. I will read anything from her. Just give me all the stories.
Yeah. I loved this book. I feel like it's now a bit of a comfort read, like when I'm tired of reading other books and I want something that I know and love. This is the book I'm going to read because it's so quick too. Like it made me so happy and it was so quick. It was really good. And the thing that makes now that I'm older and I don't relate as much to YA characters, the thing that makes a YA book stand out to me is when I can think to myself, this is something that I wish I had years ago. And this is one of those books where I'm like, damn, this would have had an impact if I had read it when I was younger. So yeah, I'm so glad that I read it now. And it was really cute and it made me really happy. It's just good. I feel like everyone should read it. It's so short. Yeah. Like nobody's wasting their time trying it out. So I will recommend it to the day I die, and I will Bad at Love.
Right. Okay. So thanks for having us, Jess.
Right. I hope everyone had a fun time listening to us talk about romance a little bit, misery a lot.
Anything else but the book. Anything but the book, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, what can you expect from pairing the three of us together? Yeah. I do feel like it's a very Latin American Latinx thing to talk about everything. So we're just giving you the experience. So I hope y'all enjoyed the live show. The next book that we're going to be reading is The Book of Embraces by Eduardo Galeano.
This is going to be prettier than mine. Which is a first.
Wow.
This is mine.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I like your copy more.
Really?
Mine is downstairs.
Yeah, but it's not in English. I like your copy more.
I feel like a lot of Eduardo Galeano books are in that type of print. It's like a very specific Eduardo
It
Galeano
matches
print.
my.
Yeah, I like books that match, which is
Yeah.
why I wish. But yeah, so the next book we're going to be reading is The Book of Embraces by Eduardo
And it's going to be
Galeano.
on
This
my
is going to
channel.
be, yes, it's going to be on Delphi's channel. I imagine like mid-March is probably going to be when it'll be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We'll
Yep.
release a date on our Twitter so you'll know. For anyone who read the first book for our book club, this is supposed to be happier. So don't let
This is supposed to be
the
like a
author
warm
deter
hug.
you. Yeah,
It
it's
is.
like short
I
stories.
promise you all.
Yeah.
And
So hope y'all will join us for the next live show.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Night.
bye.
Bye.